When Aerys, the first Targaryen, died without heir, the crown passed not to a scholar or saint, but to a soldier. Maekar Targaryen, fourth son of Daeron II, had never sought kingship. He had lived most of his life on the battlefield, a stern commander, a man of iron who spoke little and trusted few. Where his brothers had ruled through faith and learning, Maekar ruled through discipline. "Peace makes men soft," he once said. "A king must be harder than the age he lives in." Born in the twilight of Targaryen power, Maekar grew up beneath the shadow of better men. His eldest brother, Baelor Breakspear, had been beloved by all, a warrior scholar whose valor and compassion seemed destined to heal the realm. His second brother, Aerys, was the dreamer king, lost in his books. Maekar was the third son, grim, practical, and often overlooked. He served in the Blackfire rebellions, commanding with cold efficiency while others sought glory. To the men under his banner, he was not a hero, but a wall, unbending, unbroken, and silent. When Aerys' quiet reign faded into death, the Iron Throne stood empty, and Maekar, the last surviving son of Daeron the Good, was chosen by the Great Council. He accepted the crown not as gift, but as burden. In his first speech, he told the lords of Westeros, "I will not be loved, I will not be sung of, but while I live, this kingdom will not fall apart." The realm Maekar inherited was weary, fractured, and adrift. Decades of plague, rebellion, and weak kings had drained its spirit. The small folk obeyed out of habit, not loyalty. The lords ruled their lands like private kingdoms. The dragons were long dead, and so too was the awe that had once bound Westeros to House Targaryen. Maekar's reign was one of austerity. The lavish court of his ancestors was stripped bare, gold and silks replaced by iron and silence. The king dismissed the flatterers and parasites who had thrived under his predecessors, appointing seasoned knights and veterans instead. He ruled from Summerhall, a modest Targaryen seat in the Stormlands, rather than the Red Keep. There, he could command without the whispers of King's Landing in his ear. Yet strength alone could not heal a dying dynasty. The realm still bore the scars of the Blackfire rebellions. Across the narrow sea, the exiled Bittersteel and the descendants of Daemon Blackfire continued to scheme, waiting for their chance to strike again. Maekar's counselors urged him to pardon them, to heal the wound through diplomacy, but the king had no patience for traitors. "A weed cut at the stalk grows back," he said. "Better to burn the roots." Under his command, Westeros held together, barely. But cracks had begun to form, not only in the realm, but within his own house. If Maekar's reign was hard, his household was harder still. The king fathered several sons, each a reflection of a different Targaryen flaw. His firstborn, Daeron, was a gentle soul, kind-hearted but weak, a lover of wine and song. Maekar despised his softness and called him the drunkard prince. His second son, Aerion Brightflame, was the opposite, cruel, vain, and consumed by delusions of grandeur. He claimed to be the living reincarnation of a dragon and once drank wildfire in an attempt to prove it. His third son, Aemon, was wise and calm, a maester's mind trapped in a warrior's house. He would later take the vows of the citadel, seeking wisdom in chains rather than crowns. And then there was Aegon, the youngest, called Egg by his brother Aemon's traveling companion, Sir Duncan the Tall. No one expected greatness from him. He was the spare son of a lesser line, bald-headed and mischievous, following his brother's squire through the countryside, disguised as a commoner. Yet in that humble boy lay the spark that would reignite the Targaryen legend. Maekar loved his sons, but he could not reach them. His temper was short, his words sharp, and his sense of duty unbending. "I was born to rule soldiers," he once told Aemon, "not sons." The family dinners at Summerhall were said to be as cold as the stones they sat upon. And when tragedy struck, as it always did among the Targaryens, Maekar's silence grew heavier still. The spectre of the Blackfires haunted Maekar's reign like a ghost that refused to die. Though the first two rebellions had been crushed, whispers of a third stirred once more. Aenys Blackfire, the son of Daemon, attempted to claim his father's crown, supported again by Bittersteel and the Golden Company. Maekar prepared for war, but once more, Bloodraven, his hand, intervened. Bloodraven, now old and pale as snow, wielded power from the shadows just as he had under Aerys I. He crushed the Blackfire conspiracy before it could bloom, luring Aenys to parley and having him executed in the king's name. The act ended the immediate threat and shattered Maekar's trust. Though grateful for the peace, he resented that his authority had been undermined. "Even the hand has forgotten who wears the crown," he said bitterly. The relationship between king and hand deteriorated. Bloodraven's spies filled the court. His albino face became the symbol of fear in every hall. In 233 AC, when the rumors of a fourth Blackfire uprising reached the realm, Maekar stripped Bloodraven of his titles and sent him to the Wall, an exile that would turn one of the realm's most dangerous men into something far stranger. But the realm paid a price for the loss of his cunning. With Bloodraven gone, Maekar stood alone, the last true dragon in a kingdom of ghosts. By the end of his reign, Maekar was weary. His eldest sons had failed him, one lost to drink, one to madness. His beloved Aemon had refused the crown, taking the black chains of a maester, and Aegon, the youngest, was still but a boy wandering the countryside with a hedge knight. The king who had sought to rule through strength found himself surrounded by weakness. The end came at Summerhall, the castle he had made his refuge. There, a dispute between two rebellious lords, House Peak and their rivals, erupted into open conflict. Maekar, as always, refused to send others where he would not go himself. He led his household guard into battle and fought like the soldier he had always been. He was struck down in the melee, dying as he had lived, with a sword in his hand and no crown on his head. His death threw the realm into confusion once again. The Great Council was called to determine his successor. The elder sons were dead or unfit, and Aemon, ever humble, refused the crown. At last, it passed to the youngest, the boy called Egg. Aegon the Fifth Targaryen, the unlikely, would rise from obscurity to become one of the most beloved kings in Westeros, and the one whose reign would end in fire. History remembers Maekar, the first Targaryen, as a man of iron, a soldier's king who ruled in an age too fragile for his strength. He brought order to chaos, but not peace. He held the throne together, but not the family who would inherit it. To his subjects, he was cold and severe. To his maesters, he was honest and just. To his sons, he was the hammer that shaped them or broke them. In the end, Maekar's greatest legacy was not his rule, but the son he left behind. Through Aegon the Unlikely and the tales of Sir Duncan the Tall, the realm would remember that even in its decline, the blood of dragons could still burn bright, if only for a moment. He was the last Targaryen to rule with iron discipline before the final descent, the last man to carry the weight of duty without the warmth of glory. When he died, the age of the hard kings ended. What followed was an age of dreams and doom. In the next episode, a boy raised among small folk ascends the Iron Throne. Aegon V Targaryen, known to the realm as Egg, will try to restore justice and hope to a broken kingdom. But his reign will end in mystery and fire at a place called Summerhall, where the last song of the dragons will be sung. The line of kings nears its twilight. The dream of dragons burns one last time.